What if the most powerful people in the world still follow rules written in blood 3,000 years ago? In 1987, construction workers in Mexico City made a discovery that would shake the archaeological world. 20 feet below a busy street, they found a massive stone disc covered in strange carvings. But this wasn't just any ancient artifact. It was a sacrificial altar where thousands of human hearts had been ripped from living chests, offered to gods whose names we can barely pronounce. The workers had stumbled upon the great temple of the Aztecs, a place where ritual murder happened every single day for over 200 years. What they didn't know was that they had also uncovered something far more disturbing, proof that the darkest human rituals never really disappear. They just change their clothes and walk among us, hidden in our governments, our religions, and our most respected institutions. The Aztec Empire built their entire world on blood. Every morning, priests would climb the steep steps of their towering pyramids, carrying screaming victims to stone altars at the top. There, using obsidian knives sharper than modern surgical blades, they would slice open the chest and tear out the beating heart. This wasn't random violence, it was a carefully planned system that kept their society running for centuries. The Aztecs believed the sun would literally stop moving across the sky if they didn't feed it human blood every day. Their most important ceremony, called the New Fire, happened every 52 years. On this night, they would put out every flame in their empire, every torch, every cooking fire, every lamp. The entire civilization would sit in complete darkness while priests performed the ultimate sacrifice on a mountaintop. If the ritual failed, they believed the world would end forever. Only when a human heart was torn out and thrown into the fire would the sun agree to rise again. But here's what makes your blood run cold: they were incredibly good at it. Spanish conquistadors who witnessed these ceremonies wrote detailed accounts that historians still study today. They described priests so skilled they could remove a heart in less than 10 seconds. They wrote about rivers of blood flowing down pyramid steps, and walls lined with thousands of human skulls. One Spanish soldier counted over 136,000 skulls displayed in just one temple complex. The Aztecs weren't alone in their bloodthirst. Half a world away, Celtic Druids practiced rituals that were just as dark and far more mysterious. Unlike the Aztecs, who left behind stone temples and written records, the Druids left almost nothing. They passed down their knowledge only through spoken words, never writing anything down. This makes them one of history's most secretive groups. What we do know comes from Roman writers who feared and hated the Druids. They described ceremonies held in sacred groves where human sacrifices were burned alive inside giant wicker cages shaped like men. The Druids believed they could see the future by watching how their victims died. A person who screamed while burning would bring bad luck. Someone who died quietly meant good harvests were coming. The most chilling Druid practice was called the threefold death. This ritual combined drowning, hanging, and stabbing all at once. The victim would be held underwater until nearly dead, then hanged until almost lifeless, then stabbed through the heart. The Druids believed this triple death would send the person's spirit to 3 different worlds at the same time, giving the Druids power over life, death, and everything in between. Roman Emperor Julius Caesar wrote that Druids controlled every aspect of Celtic society. They decided who could get married, who could trade goods, and who lived or died. No one could challenge their power because everyone believed the Druids could curse their enemies and bring terrible luck to anyone who opposed them. The Romans were so afraid of Druid influence that they spent over 100 years hunting them down and killing them. You might think these bloody rituals died with the ancient world. You would be wrong. Walk into any Catholic church during Mass and watch the priest hold up bread and wine, telling the congregation it has become the actual body and blood of Christ. The worshippers then eat and drink what they believe is human flesh and blood. This isn't symbolic, Catholic doctrine states it's literally true. The ritual comes directly from ancient sacrifice ceremonies where communities would consume their gods to gain their power. Look deeper and the connections become impossible to ignore. Secret societies that trace their roots back thousands of years still meet in hidden rooms around the world. The Bohemian Grove, where some of America's most powerful politicians and business leaders gather every summer, holds a ceremony called the cremation of care. Members dress in robes and perform a ritual sacrifice of a human effigy to a giant owl statue. They claim it's just theater, but the ceremony follows the exact same pattern as ancient Druid rituals. Even more disturbing are the modern psychological studies that show how these ancient practices shaped human behavior in ways we're only beginning to understand. Stanford University research has found that people who participate in group rituals, even harmless ones like singing together or dancing, become more willing to follow extreme orders and hurt other people. The same brain patterns that made Aztec citizens accept daily human sacrifice are still active in modern humans. The most chilling evidence comes from what happens during national crises. When countries go to war, their leaders use language that mirrors ancient sacrifice rituals. They talk about blood sacrifice for the homeland and offering our sons and daughters to preserve our way of life. The same psychology that made people climb pyramid steps to die for their gods now makes soldiers march into battle for their nations. Some researchers believe these ritual patterns are so deeply embedded in human nature that they automatically resurface whenever societies face serious threats. The ceremonies change, the gods get new names, but the core human drive to sacrifice for the group remains exactly the same. Tonight, as you walk past churches, government buildings, and corporate headquarters, remember this: the darkest chapters of human history weren't written by monsters, they were written by ordinary people who believed their rituals were keeping the world safe. The Aztec priest who carved out hearts thought he was saving humanity from eternal darkness. The Druid who burned people alive believed he was protecting his tribe from invisible enemies. They were wrong about their gods, but they understood something about human nature that we're still afraid to admit. When people truly believe their survival depends on it, there is no ritual too dark, no sacrifice too great, and no blood too sacred to spill. The only question that remains is this: what rituals are we performing today that future generations will look back on in horror?